Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink, few minutes after the end of the ladies' finals. And we have a new champion, a 19 years old girl, Iga Świątek, first player from Poland ever to win a slam, not just Roland Garros, but any slam, because Aga Radwanska was in a final once in Wimbledon, but she didn't win it. And so, Steve, are you surprised, and how much are you impressed? Do you think it was a great match, or that Kenin didn't play as she could have done?
Well, I don't think, you know that old expression, Ubaldo, sometimes you're not allowed to play. That's the British used to love to say that. I remember when you and I were first starting our reporting careers, that one player didn't allow the other player to play. I thought in a way that's what went on today with Świątek. She just was too good. I mean, there was a nice comeback from Kenin in the first set, from 3-love down back to 3-all. And then she fought hard again, broke back when the Polish girl served for the set. But from the time that Świątek closed out the first set, even though she went down to break in the second, she won 6 games in a row at the end. And I just think she was too good, don't you?
Yes, I think so too. To be honest, at the beginning of the match, there were quite a lot on force errors by both. I mean, let's say that there were 20 by Kenin and 8 maybe by Świątek. So it was in the first 4 or 5 games, which so they were quite a lot. I mean, to be honest. But then afterwards, of course, Świątek got more confidence, and she went on easy, you know. And if you think that she was number 54 in the WTA ranking, now she will be number 17. But I believe that she will be very soon in the top 10.
I agree. I agree. Sorry, Ubaldo, sorry to interrupt. I couldn't agree more. I think she'll be in the top 10 quickly, and the ranking will not mean anything anymore. And she just has made a big leap in the level of her game this year. It's very impressive because, as you know, Kenin, of course, won the Australian Open and fought hard today. Had a good tournament here in Roland Garros. But I think her only chance was when she came back in the first set and made it tight after losing the first 3 games, but then was unable to sustain it. And she was picked apart in the second set by just a much better player who was hitting the ball deeper and harder and using the angles. And Świątek's backhand down the line was brilliant. I think she used that shot really effectively from off the court. I just think she outplayed her across the board.
Yes, and then she also played some beautiful drop shots with both forehand and backhand, and she was serving better, and she is very powerful with her forehand, so she's a complete player.
She is, and she has a nice serve. Serve's going to get better. Right now, her return is her bigger strength than her serve, but the serve potentially could get considerably better in the years ahead. I think she'll work on it. But she's going to win more of these, Ubaldo, don't you think? I can't imagine her stopping with one major title. There's a lot more to come, in my view.
Yes, quite surprisingly, she's she had never won a tournament yet, and so she starts her first tournament is a slam. It's like Mats Wilander in 1982.
Yeah,
Wilander too had not won.
And we all knew then, Ubaldo, that's an interesting comparison because we knew that Mats was no fluke. Yeah. And we all felt after all the great players that he beat, like Gerulaitis, beat Vilas in the final, Ivan, you know, he had 4 big wins in that tournament.
Yeah, even Clerc in the semifinal, giving him back the match point.
Yes, exactly. Great sportsmanship on top of great play. But we knew that Mats was headed for more great things in the years ahead. And I feel the same way about Świątek. I can't imagine that she will not win. Well, I don't want to give a number, but multiple majors and probably between 5 and 10.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, especially in these times when the women's tennis doesn't have any more Serena Williams dominating. And then, of course, there will be much more variety on the winner side, you know. And so
be interesting. You're right, but it'll be interesting to watch her play people like Naomi Osaka, the U.S. Open champion. And we all know that Naomi broke through 2 years ago at the Open and then won the Australian the next year, came back and won a second U.S. Open just a few weeks ago. That would be interesting to see Swiatek playing against Naomi in a big match in the next year, to see. That would be a good barometer of where she is and where she may be going.
Yeah, and you know, she got to the final having lost only 23 games, and so now it's 28, which is a great performance. I mean, before the final, there were only 5 players, and one of them, you know her pretty well, who had lost less games than the Swiatek reaching the final. One was Pierce, Mary Pierce, who had lost only 10. Then Steffi Graf had lost only 20, Serena Williams 21, and Chris Evert, your friend, 22.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one, because Chris Evert won seven Roland Garros, if I am not wrong. So
yes, she did. A record for the women. But I think that she proved today, and look at the people that she beat. She beat Kenin in the final. She beat Simona Halep, who everybody thought was the big favorite to win the title. That draw was not that easy. And she never was even taken beyond 6-4 in any set, Ubaldo. That's dominance.
Yeah.
And very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, she had lost 5 games altogether with Xie, the Chinese girl from Taipei, and then 5 games today, and 4 with the Italian Trevisan, and 3 with Alep. So unbelievable. I mean,
it is. And when the first set got to 5-4, and you thought that maybe Kenin could get it back to 5-all, and she didn't. She got broken, but I felt that I was almost shocked that the first set was that close. That's how this Swiatek has spoiled us with all these decisive sets. But it just shows you how well-rounded she is as a player and how poised she is, and she will have a great next couple of years, I hope, unless she's injured or something happens to her like that. Barring that, she will accomplish a lot in this game.
What we don't know exactly yet, because they haven't come yet to the press conferences, is if Kenin had a major problem or not, because she stopped, she had a medical timeout, and she was kind of negative almost the whole match, in the sense that when even the camera was, you know, showing her face, I saw her. She was almost always crying. I mean, with tears in the eyes, and then she threw 2 or 3 times the racket, like if she was convinced there was nothing to do, which in a way it surprised me, because she's a fighter, and she was doing that already when they were 4-all in the first set. So I don't understand really if she was feeling that she had a problem.
Well, we'll never know, and I don't know what she will say about it. All I can say is she did make the comeback in the first set. If she had lost this match 6-love, 6-1, and couldn't move, I thought she played pretty well the first set and moved well. Then she left the court, as you know, early in the second set.
Yeah.
They had to tape up her leg again and redo the taping, and she took a medical timeout, and she didn't maybe move quite as well when she came back. I just think the bottom line is she was up against a better player.
Anyway, one thing I did like very much about Swiatek is also what she usually says in the press conferences, more than today the speech. Of course, she was you know, feeling the emotion, so she couldn't say much. But the other day, she said, well, I love studying. I took my degrees, the high school degrees recently. And if I will not be able to to become a top 10 in 2 years, then I would go back to study and go to university, which, you know, it shows some kind of education. She was honest, I think, when she was saying that. She was not bluffing, you know. So
no. She seems very sincere and very mature, and she's going to be very good for the women's game. I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah, me too. And then I'm happy also for the Polish friends of mine, and because I've met many of them in the press conferences and in Paris and somewhere else, and they are always very nice people. And they didn't have much luck, because since Wojciech Fibak, they didn't have a great player, but Radwanska, who was able anyway to reach a final in Wimbledon, and also to win the WTA finals in Singapore once, you know.
She was very gifted. I thought somewhere along the line she might win a major. Her timing wasn't as good. She played Serena in her prime. There were some things that got in her way, but she was capable. But now Poland has their first major champion, and deservedly so.
Okay, listen, Steve, before we start talking about the men's finals of tomorrow, at the moment, I tell you and I say you goodbye, and thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Ubaldo. I enjoyed it.
Here we are again with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer Steve Flink, just to talk about what will be the most expected final ever in Roland Garros. The number 1 in the world, Novak Djokovic. The number 2 in the world, Rafa Nadal. Nadal has won only 12 Roland Garros, and Djokovic won.
But yeah, I think that's a very disappointing record for Nadal, to only win 12. I think it just shows you how he's not a very play court player.
No, correct. And well, Djokovic, Steve, could have an inferiority complex, having won only 1 Roland Garros, but I don't think he feels that inferior. What do you expect tomorrow? And well, we can say some data. No, we could say that they are 29 to 26 in the head-to-head to Djokovic, but they are 9-6 to Nadal in slams, and they are 4-all in the finals of slams. So, Steve, you can recall, because they're much better than me as a statistician, which are the 4 wins of Rafa Nadal in the final, and which are the 4 wins of Novak Djokovic in the finals.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ubaldo. They didn't until 2010. They met only in Grand Slam semifinals, and then Nadal won the 2010 U.S. Open final over Djokovic, and then they went on quite a spree, because 2011, Djokovic beat Nadal in Wimbledon and U.S. Open finals. Then they went to the 2012 Australian, and they had their epic 5 hours, 53 minutes, won by Djokovic in 5. And then they went to Roland Garros later that year. So they actually played 4 in a row, from Wimbledon 2011 through the Roland Garros 2012, with Nadal ending a 3-match losing streak at the majors against Novak by winning in 4 sets at Roland Garros. And then it went from there. And, you know, we didn't have, we had the 2013 US Open final won by Rafa. So he beat Novak for the 2nd time in 3 US Open finals. Then they went to Roland Garros in 2014, and Rafa won again over Novak, 2nd time in the finals. And then they went for quite a long time, Ubaldo, because, you know, those years of 15, 16, 17, 18, then we went to the 2019 Australian, when Djokovic played that great match against Nadal. So really, to beat him in straight sets, maybe the best match he's ever played, as he just said the other day. So the bottom line is, Nadal has 2 out of 3 over Djokovic at the US Open. Djokovic is 2-0 against Nadal in the Australian Open finals. And Nadal is 2-0 at Roland Garros over Djokovic. And at Wimbledon, it was Djokovic who won their only final back in 2011. It's quite a long and impressive series, and hard fought.
Well, I knew that you were going to overwhelm us with all this data and these stats, but I'm sure that they were pretty clear. And so it's, I mean, it's a contribution that we give, that you give to our readers and listeners.
Well, the shorter version, Yubal, is that a lot of those matches were played really between 2010 and 2012, many of them, and then a lot less since. And they met again in that 13 U.S. Open final and the 14 Roland Garros, and then they went for many years for different reasons, because both of them had injuries and problems at different times in those years of 15, 16, 17, you know, and 18. One or the other seemed to have some problems that prevented them from meeting. And then also they had some big semifinals, which we won't talk about. That was the other thing. They ended up on the same half of the draw, like that Wimbledon epic a couple of years ago that Djokovic won over Nadal. So there's been that as well. But this will be a sort of a tiebreaker for major finals. Whoever wins one will go ahead 5-4 in the series.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, some of the reason why they didn't play to each other in a final, they had a name, either Roger Federer or Andy Murray. So that was also one of the reasons why, apart from injuries, it was not all the time that they could play against each other in the finals.
It's true, and you know, you think of there's some great Federer Djokovic finals in the middle of the last decade. Like they played 2 Wimbledon finals in a row in 14 and 15, and they played in the U.S. Open final in 15. And that was a period where Rafa was not playing as well. But now here we have them both back at 1 and 2 in the world, playing one of the biggest matches of their careers, maybe the biggest.
Okay, you know, it was funny and quite original, and maybe we don't agree with him, but we know that Yannick Noah is always saying something which can be worth a consideration, a reflection. He said, I've seen them too many times, one against the other. Even if I love a movie, I'm not going to see that movie 50 times.
Well, I will respectfully disagree. It reminds me of somebody, the old saying, Ubaldo, that my father used to have this on his coffee table when we were living in London. And it said, if you are tired of London, you are tired of life. Okay. That's the way I feel about this rivalry. And I don't ever feel that there's not a new twist and turn and something, especially with so much, and also especially with so much history on the line, Ubaldo. Because Nadal can tie Roger Federer for major titles with 20 if he wins. Djokovic could climb to 18 and move to within 1 of Rafa and 2 of Roger if he wins. There's so much importance on the outcome of this match. And both players they're so well aware of it. And I think the public is too. So it makes it more fun. Don't you agree?
Yes, yes, I do agree. And I'm very curious to see what will happen, because at the same time, I must say that I wasn't completely convinced, even if Nadal hasn't lost a set in the whole tournament. Djokovic could have won in 3 sets versus Tsitsipas. He had a match point, and he went to the 5th, and he won 6-1 in the 5th because, strangely enough, he is 33. Tsitsipas is what, 22? And Tsitsipas was exhausted and couldn't play anymore, while Djokovic could have played 6, 7, 8 sets.
So, right, I agree. That was a strange match, right, Bob? It was a strange match. I don't think it's going to hurt Djokovic's confidence. He probably was annoyed because he missed a backhand down the line that could have been a winner. It would have been over. Straight sets, he wins the last set 6-4, done. Instead, he had to play almost, not quite 2 more hours to complete the win. But the 5th set was not long. 6-1 5th set, it was quick. Yeah. And you're right. And he looked fit. He looked much fitter than suspended.
Okay.
I think with a day off, I think he's going to be fine.
Okay, so what I was saying is that even if they, let's say, dominate in general their opponents, but I didn't see any of the two playing really at his best. In a way, I mean, I had the impression that Djokovic, even in the previous matches, had some lapses here and there. Nadal, of course, he won all his 3 sets, and before Sinner, he had been dominating the tournament. Against Sinner in the quarters, he had 1 set when he was in troubles. Sinner served for the set. Then he also was up 3-1 in the second.
Yeah, you know what the problem was? Ubaldo, you know what the problem was quickly for Sinner, that right then in those situations when he served for the first set and went up 3-1 in the second, he already could see the headline on the story that you were going to write about him saying Sinner upsets Nadal at Roland Garros.
Yeah, well, I hope not, because then they would say bring bad luck. But,
finish your point. Sorry to interrupt. Finish your point.
No, but it's true. No, I do. So what I say is that now that if, since as usual at the end of our talk we usually try to make our predictions, and we usually try to make mistakes in our prediction. But this time it's even more difficult because you know, normally I would have said Nadal on clay is favorite all the time. This time I don't see him. I haven't seen him so well because his opponents were very weak until half week, until half tournament. So you couldn't really judge. Djokovic.
Ubaldo, a little bit the same with Djokovic. He had an easy first 3 matches. Then not till he played Kachanov in the 4th round, and then Carina Busta that got tougher. You're right. It was hard to judge them. But I do think quickly in their defense that they both have played pretty well when you consider how cold and windy it's been. Very not typical Roland Garros conditions in the sun and warm weather that might bring out their best. I think, but I do think they will bring out their best against each other. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree. And I notice, which could be a little advantage for Djokovic, that while Nadal keeps in a way complaining about the heavy balls, the top spin that doesn't get as well as usual in May, that this tournament is different, and the cold and everything else, Djokovic yesterday said something like, maybe this situation is a little bit on my advantage. So so they both, I mean, while Djokovic has in his head the idea that he has probably more chances than usual, Rafa, I don't say that he thinks that he's less favorite than usual, but he puts his hands in front, like, hey, this could happen because the situation is different. So I don't know if you evaluate, if you give importance to this or not.
I do. But I think that you were kind of getting to the heart of it. I was agreeing with what you were saying. Nadal may have complained about the balls a lot before the tournament and the slower conditions and the cold weather. But he's looked to me close enough to his normal self. Maybe not at his very best, but how can you be when you've been gone for 6 months up until Rome? And it's a disrupted year for everybody. But I do think Djokovic does not mind to play him with the heavier balls and the slower court, because it just gives him a little more security, feeling like some of Rafa's strengths with that heavy topspin are a little bit diminished, a little. And so, but of course, they're each trying to take pressure off of themselves, right?
Yeah, correct. So, but now we should say what we think that will happen. I mean, first of all, I hope you agree, we should both hope for a big battle, and we
Yes.
wouldn't mind to see 5 sets. I mean,
No, I hope I wouldn't mind seeing something like their 2013 Roland Garros semifinal in 9-7 in the fifth that Rafa won, or something like that Australian final the year before. You know, one of their epics would be a nice fitting way to end it. It'd be nice for the fans too. It has the makings of that, Ubaldo, because yes, Rafa's never lost a Roland Garros final, but Djokovic is now the best player in the world. And Djokovic's only loss this year was when, as everybody said, he beat himself at the U.S. Open and got disqualified. Otherwise, unbeaten. And he's played more recently than Nadal, and he looks pretty confident. He said he felt very comfortable in that match against Cespedes, despite letting it go to 5. He still felt he was the better player. I think he likes the way he's playing. So I think they each have reasons to believe that it can go their way, that they're going to get the victory.
Yeah, you're right in underlining also the fact that Djokovic had many more chances to practice on clay. He played Rome. He also played in the U.S. Open. Okay, different surface, but I mean, he went to New York, and he didn't have a gap of 6 months. You know,
right. And he also got a little better preparation than Nadal. He got some confidence too by winning in Rome. That didn't hurt. To go to Rome, having had the disappointment at the Open, but win Rome and come into Paris well prepared on the clay. So there's certain things working in his favor, and just the fact that he's really had the upper hand with Nadal overall, say, you know, through the last 5 years or so. I mean, he's really been more head to head. I think he's a little bit inside Rafa's head on the other surfaces. I think Nadal's a little bit apprehensive about playing Djokovic, particularly on hard courts, where it's been so long since he's won. But here it's perfect because they each have a quiet confidence that they will come through.
Yeah, even if as we were talking, Djokovic hasn't won versus Nadal on clay since 2016 when they played in Rome in the quarters of finals. So, you know, also those things they stuck in your mind sometimes. Oh, it's difficult for a player. So, of course,
true, but not a lot of matches on clay since then. That's the thing. So I don't think it's like he lost 5 or 6 times to him. Then he would be a little bit more psyched out. And but here, I just think they go out there knowing that the historical consequences are enormous. So they have a lot. That could make them each a little nervous at certain times because especially if they get close to winning, you know, if they're on the verge of it. But are we ready for our predictions?
I think we are ready. I'm just thinking, I would like before to ask you one more thing. Do you think that if one of the two, I want to make it more suspense, no? So suspense before we decide what we are thinking. If one of the two wins the first 2 sets, is it going to be the sure winner, or he could even lose in 5 sets? You know that Nadal lost only once to Fognini at the U.S. Open 2015, being up 2 sets to love. Djokovic also, I don't
Djokovic also only once against Meltzer at the French Open 10 years ago. So they have that in common in a way. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't count either one out when they're down 2. They both are too good. They're such staunch competitors. Obviously, it's going to be a long way back to do it, but I wouldn't count either one out against each other with this prize, the outcome of this prize having so much importance.
Okay.
So no, I don't come out.
Okay, so now we are ready for the prediction. So we are ready to make a wrong prediction, both of us. Maybe, I don't know. You want to take a first step? Yeah. Are you ready to anticipate?
Yeah, I'm ready, and I can't make the prediction with too much confidence because I have too much respect for both players, and I know how hard fought this will be. I'm predicting that Djokovic will win this match. And I think it's going to be either, say, a 4-set tiebreaker or all the way to 5. It would be very, very close. But I think the key to the outcome, frankly, I think the key is the first set for both. I think they each need that first set very badly. But I'm going with Djokovic for a variety of reasons to win this title for the second time.
You put me in troubles because I was hoping that you were saying Nadal, so I would have said Djokovic, and so we were covering all different aspects. Now I'm a little more worried because if we both say Djokovic, then of course Nadal is the favorite.
Well, you just say whatever you believe will happen.
No, I believe that the best Djokovic is a more complete player than Nadal, and also I think yesterday he played something like 30 drop shots, and most of them were winning. He's probably sometimes exaggerating a bit on that shot, but against Nadal, who sometimes stays a little bit too much behind the baseline, with the heavy balls, the drop shot become very, very effective. And so I think that, that Djokovic is more complete in the sense that both his forehand and backhand are more or less at the same level. The backhand is maybe better, but with the forehand, he makes more winning shots. So when they play from the baseline and they exchange all different ways, rallies, I see a little edge in favor of Djokovic. That's why I would have said also Djokovic to win, even if I understand that to play against someone who has won 12 Roland Garros.
Right. That's why I said I wouldn't put too much confidence in the call, but that's my call, and you seem to be agreeing.
Yeah, I do agree. Also because, as we have said before, they are playing on this different climate, surface, balls, and all these reasons seem to favor a bit, in my opinion, Djokovic. But I do agree with you that is a very tough call to make, because I mean, whoever wins cannot be called a surprise. I mean,
absolutely not. Right.
So that is more or less all of it. I think we have said what we thought, and then we will see maybe tomorrow night or even Monday. It depends on what time they finish, how much time we have, and so on. We will see if we were both wrong or both right.
Perfect, Ubaldo. I look forward to it. And let's just hope we get an epic. We deserve it, and the fans deserve it. It would be the ideal way to end the tournament would be 5 sets. I'm picking Djokovic in maybe 7-6 in the fourth, but I'm hoping for 5.
Yeah, okay. One last thing is that at the end, even if the French Federation had been very much criticized, and before then also the US Open, these two federations, the American first and the French one afterwards, they at the end they were the winner of because their decisions at the end gave us the opportunity to see still some great matches, some great tournaments. They protect the players apparently well enough, so there were not major risks or problems for any player, with very small exception. And I mean, that must be recognized, because I remember when the French jumped on this date in the calendar, everybody was shocked. I mean, many people was criticizing, oh, the French, they are typically French, they don't care about the others. At the end, all the players are happy that this tournament could be played.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wasn't happy myself initially, but they pulled it off beautifully, as did the U.S. Open, and the fans have had a real treat. And in the case of Roland Garros, Ubaldo, they actually have about 1,000 fans on the grounds. That is really nice for the players to hear the cheers. I'm glad that they were able to work that out. I wish sometimes the fans would sit a little further apart, a little more distance, but it's great. It's great to see them there applauding and giving the players so much support.
Well, thanks a lot to Steve Flink, my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer. We will talk again after the tournament to discuss about the final, who won it, and if we were right or wrong. Probably wrong.
Look forward. Yeah, absolutely, Ubaldo. I look forward to the post-tournament talk.